Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It's great to see you. Great to see you this morning. Let's see who's here. I'm just getting adjusted. I got into the studio late this morning. It's so good to see you. I hope that it was fun yesterday. I didn't get to log on to the Rug Cooking Magazine's event with Molly Colgrove, but I heard that it was wonderful. It was a great opportunity for me to not be on or doing anything because I had so much work to do. I seized the day. But it sounds like it was absolutely fabulous. I hope that you were there. I missed seeing you, but we're here today to catch up from where we left off with Wall Street Journal on Monday. Got some other news for you. Jennifer, it's good to see you. Ready for more? And there's a little sheep there. So cute. Wall Street Journal. So hard to find the back issues. It is hard to find the back issues. I keep thinking about this magazine. And I keep thinking, gosh, why isn't it there anymore, right? Like a magazine that's mostly text-driven, inspiration, why isn't it there anymore, if you see what I mean? I'm wondering if I can find the answer to that question. I'm sure it was a lot of work. Nonetheless, the more I look at it, the more I wish that it was there. So I'm gonna do some chasing on that angle and see what I can find out. Kirsten, happy Wednesday. Great to see you. You can smell that pie on the cover. I put that pie on the cover because it's the pattern. Surprise over, spoiler alert, for the swatch set this month. I'm missing one because it's the one we're going to look at today. I have all these colors from the swatch set going. Food, Glorious Food, our November swatch set, right? All these colors of food, plum, squashes, crusts, eggs, creams, pies, meat, everything. So I made a design. The free pattern of the month, it's a surprise that I just spoiled, is this pattern of, I was wondering if I had it out, black and white copy, is the pattern of the pie. And, the kids are sick. The kids are at home. Little old Ted is quite sick. He's making me nervous. He seems to feel great after the vaccinations. He was sick before, so I don't think it's anything to do with that. But he sounds like a seal when he's barking, that noise. It's worrying because I don't want it to escalate to like pneumonia or something like that. He's still home. And I took Jossie back out of school today. She was in the last couple of days, but I took her out because she's been quite sick. And she keeps saying it's so gross, but she keeps saying she can't keep the inside of her mask clean, if you see what I mean, because she needs to constantly blow her nose. And it's not the times anymore where you just sit there and blow your nose and, ball them up and throw them in the trash in the classroom. They don't do that anymore. So I have her home too, and she's actually still sleeping, so she must have needed it. So yesterday, I was getting a lot of stuff done on the computer, working on book stuff, working on chasing people, finding images, looking for higher quality images that I can submit. And I was trying to do some of it sitting next to Teddy in his room, and I hit a kind of a wall, and I could tell he wanted me to stay and hang out for a little while, and I didn't really have anything to work on, and I couldn't concentrate on writing. So I took out the pie. And I had sketched it onto traced it with my fiber tape onto the backing, the pie that you all are getting. Everybody who's ordering the swatch set is getting this as the free pattern. And I only used the noodles that were like at my feet in projects that I hadn't, I'd had extras left over that they were just sitting there rotting. So I literally just took my basket of the noodles I already had and put this together. And it is truly one of my worst pieces. I love the design. The design is great. I did terrible with these colors. But when you get this design with your swatch set, you do better. You will do better. And I can't wait to see yours. It's a nice pie in the center with these three little sort of plumes of steam coming out. I put 2021 on it, which you don't have to. That was my bright from dark light, dull bright. And I had this kind of shape around the edges where I did like my sort of denim blues and lilacs and hydrangea colors. And then in the center, the background, I put sort of my pumpkin pie colors and my mustards, and there's lots of colors in there. But terribly and sadly, they just don't work together. And I shouldn't have been doing it in the first place because I really don't have the time for this right now. But I quite hate it, I have to admit. So I am showing it to you because I'm making the point, I am not the master by any means, and it is not always a home run. by any means. So I am really looking forward to, I'm going to put it here on the wall of shame. I cleared the back of the chair for this. I'm looking forward to seeing yours because, yeah, I just don't like what I did with the colors. And like I said, if I had more time, I would sort of do what I always say not to do and probably pull that center part out and make it less busy. But that whole sort of mission of using up noodles was what was in my head, and I hooked this last night. So, I mean, what can you say? It was something that I was just working on when I was just sitting there anyway and felt I should be there. So it is what it is. Thank you. Thank you for saying something nice about it, Kirsten. It's not so great, but I'm looking forward to seeing yours a lot more. Mama Bear is on. Happy Wednesday. Run into the kitchen to prepare for coffee time. Doreen, it's good to see you. Sunny and cool. You're loving it. It's very comfortable, isn't it? Becky, good morning. Great to see you. Heather, good to see you. Heather, I keep brainstorming the piece for you from the challenge, Jean Coates challenge on our Facebook page, the 6x6. I had an idea and I don't like it anymore. So I need to come up with another idea, but I have lots of ideas because I know you and I miss you and I hope I can see you soon. Donna, great to see you. Annette, Alberta, Tara, great to see you. Wednesday, Penny, hello in South Carolina. Good to see you too. Dave, you're doing the same thing, getting your stuff ready. Crystal, great to see you. I need to send you a message because I wanted to ask if I can use some of your punch projects. Beverly, great to see you. It was fun chatting last night. I hit a wall. You know what I did last night? At the end of this, I was sitting there and I thought, oh my God, the tavern class is tomorrow, and I haven't sent out that document. I haven't finished cleaning up the lines because I drew tons of sketches that we're going to use in that designing like tavern signs class. And I said the other day it was this Wednesday, as in tonight, and it's not. Calendar-wise, it's next Wednesday, it's this coming Sunday, and then the following Wednesday. So I am so sorry if I threw you with that. I said the wrong thing. It's right on the calendar. It's right on the website. But it's not tonight. It's Sunday and Wednesday. So you choose either one. You're welcome to log on to both. It's basically the same class that I'm running. So that was a bit of a reprieve. That allowed me to finish this, whatever it is, pie. Beverly, Linda, good to see you. Courtney, good to see you. Lori, good to see you. I loved seeing Tig in the photo yesterday. So cute. What a cutie. Nada, great to see you. Elaine, great to see you too. All the buddies are on this morning. Oh, Jennifer says, Bonnie Smith, editor, wanted to retire. Oh, is that, okay. I understand. It must be a lot of work. She posted a couple months ago on the buy and sell group that she wanted back issues. Kind of surprised she hadn't kept them. Oh, no. Oh, that's awful, isn't it? I mean, I hope she kept at least one copy of each. I wonder if I can find her. Is anybody friends with her? I wonder if I can find her. The Wool Diva. Howdy, good morning. Good to see you. Chrissy, good morning. Good to see you. Chrissy, I pulled up one of your pictures yesterday. What was it that I really want to use also? I'll write you. I saved it in one of the special file that Kirsten put together for me. I'll pull that up and I'll send you a message because I saw one of yours and I thought, oh gosh, I absolutely love this. Oh no, it is. It's wall of shame. Travesty. That was the word I was looking for. You didn't say it. I had it in my head. As soon as I looked at the pie, I thought of the word travesty. Elaine, your kiddo's been sick as well. I hope they feel better too. I just hope it doesn't escalate. That's the thing that I worry about. But I'm happy they got their first shot. Looking forward to the second shot. Thumbs up for the Ribbon Candy Hooking channel and our shows here. Thanks, Mom. You need to come visit. Yeah, you do. I miss you, Heather. Love the pie. No pie. I got to get rid of that pie. It's killing me seeing it over my shoulder like that. Reprieve on Tavern Sign class. It was a relief. It allowed me to finish the travesty. So, yesterday was a weird day because of the kids being sick. It's just I'm in a weird groove right now. But I had such a nice call yesterday. And Dorothy, if you are watching in Chicago, it was so nice talking to you. And I just want to let you know, Dorothy called because she wanted to place an order on the phone. Not everybody likes to use the computer, and I understand that. So she called and I picked up, and she was very surprised that I picked up, and we had a nice talk. And she has a lot going on in her life, but she is on her way to moving to Wisconsin. So our buddies in Wisconsin, Robin, Carol, Kaz, and I think Jill is in Wisconsin too. There's another Jill who's been logging on. I have all of their phone numbers for you if you're watching Dorothy, because I think you probably are, and they are looking forward to you making a move and welcoming you in Wisconsin. So isn't it nice to know that it's through a group, through an online group, you can find friends who you have something in common with, and especially when you're making a big change in your life. It's so nice to know that there are people looking forward to seeing you, right? It's like that first day that Teddy went to this new school, and he said that, his teacher told me, he didn't tell me, but he went into the class and they were expecting him. And when he came in, they all went, "Yay, Teddy!" And they were all standing up and cheering. And, he did the kind of walking into the class, kind of like this. And I thought, that's so nice, isn't it? Isn't it great to feel wanted and welcome? I think we could all use more of that, right? Always. Joy, good to see you. You are wanted and welcome. Doesn't matter if you're late. You're fine. So, Dorothy, it was really nice talking to you. And, it's so good on this thread here when we run our live shows, but also in our Facebook group, which is Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club. It's so good. Always feel free, if you're new coming into the group, to shout out and say, listen, I'm from Chicago, or I'm moving to Wisconsin, or I'm from this place. Is there anybody else from this place? I would love to meet other people. I'd love to know who's around me. Because you'll be amazed at how many people pop up and say, I'm from there. It's just nice to make those connections, isn't it? Because not everybody is involved in an organized group like, for example, ATHA. And not everybody has buddies that they can get together with and work on hooking projects or just companionship, right? So it's nice to reach out and find those people. I tried reaching out to Bonnie, and I haven't heard back. Okay, that's good, Elaine. Used to rug hook together back in the day. Yeah, I'd be real curious. It's, when you find a magazine like this, I mean, it's a small periodical. It must have been a lot of work. It certainly must have been a lot of writing, synthesizing, editing, right? The editing part of the journal. There's so much text in this. There's so many patterns in this. It must have been a lot of work. But the more, like I say, the more I look at it, it feels like a hole in my heart when I think about it, because, this was a small periodical, that we're going to return to it now. This was a small periodical. It was filled with personal ideas, columns handwritten in the most friendly sort of way, great information. There's information in every issue about dyeing, how to hook, how to feel free and good about what you're working on, how to get better, but in such a friendly, conversational way. It's not like anything else, is it? I love Rug Cooking Magazine. I love ATHA Magazine. This is very different in its tone, in its approach. It also crosses genres quite a bit. It's not just hooking. They give a lot of applique, penny rug stuff in here. It really, for such a small little volume, it's remarkably full, every single issue. So, Karen, good to see you. So, yeah, this has got me thinking a bit. But, before I forget, let's do now that it's Food Glorious Food Month, favorite recipes. We looked at this book on Monday when I took the first recipe out of it. I took a second recipe out of this book for this color called Damson Plum Pie. Damson Plum Pie. So if you ordered the swatch set and it's still up there, there's some more left. You're going to get that on fiber tape, and you're going to get the 35 colors. This one is called Damson Plum Pie. Let me tell you how that is done in case you're interested. That sounds so good to me. I love plums. This comes from a place in Virginia called the Sykes Inn, Sykes. I wonder if that's still there. I don't look because I'm hoping that somebody will know about it and tell me about it. The Sykes Inn, Smithfield, Virginia. It says a part of this building was a stagecoach stop as far back as 1752. Today, it's the headquarters for tourists visiting the historic surrounding countryside of Virginia. Excellent overnight accommodations. This is the illustration they give of the dining room here at the Sykes Inn. These beautiful old illustrations, the Williamsburg Inn. I hope that's still there. But the Damson Plum Pie, 2 eggs, 1/3 cup of butter, 1/3 cup of sugar, 1/3 cup of milk, 1/3 cup of Damson plum preserves, 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, 1 pastry shell uncooked. You separate the eggs and beat them. Cream, butter, and sugar together and stir into the beaten eggs. So far, so good, right? This is easy. Add milk preserves and cornstarch. Fold beaten egg whites into mixture and pour into pie tin lined with pie crust. Bake at 350 for 40 minutes. That's it. That's not hard, is it? That's a lot of the third of pretty much everything, but I bet that is wonderful. Must have been so nice back in the day for all these famous restaurants to be giving one recipe each, like their most popular, thing that they were famous for kind of thing. So cute. They probably have these now at the bookstore on Amazon, right? But they're not packaged as sweetly as Ford Motor Company used to do with this one in the 50s and 60s. And when I think of it, I was just thinking I did make a pie yesterday. It wasn't the kind of pie that you would expect, but it was this pie behind me, the travesty pie. But yeah, so I do cook, sort of. So, all right, so let's come back to the Wall Street Journal, Volume 1. So this is the first year, number 3. There's 4 every year. And we left off on Monday talking about I'm a hooker, right? So I am a hooker says or asks, how high can you go? And this time it's by Renita Geeds. I think it's always by Renita Geeds, isn't it? Geddes. That sounds familiar. Now she's going to talk to us about, I think I showed you the butter cookies, the recipe for Tom Baker's Sweet Shop, 1 recipe a month in the Wall Street Journals, an issue. So I'm a hooker says, the discussion is our loops. Sitting here in a pile of books, one begins to wonder who decided the rule of height on our loops. In print, there are similarities in the instruction of hooking the height of your loops with the basics of hooking about as high as your strip is wide. Right? That is the rule of thumb, and I always repeat that in class with a grain of salt, of course. Where was I when they asked for a vote? For me, personally, there was not much thought on this subject as I hooked. With rugs tucked under my arm, I visited other rugging groups. That is when the buzzing began. Oh, that's high. Oh, you sure hook high. My friend, the high hooker, right, just ordered something last night from the class on Cape Cod. Then the ultimate question, how come you hook so high? That's a pretty impertinent question, isn't it? I mean, not joking, that's an impertinent question. Because again, who was there when everybody voted on the height that the loops are supposed to be? Juliet Bawden, and we have talked about her a lot in Coffee Time, the British author who does a lot on rag rugs, has written quite a number of books on rag rugs. You'll remember if you were to look at the covers because we killed those books. We loved them so much. Juliet Bawden of Rag Rug Inspirations is quoted as saying, there is no right or wrong way to hook. Different people use different methods. Juliet also says, the loops you make should be approximately as high as they are wide to create a firm pile. The magical words are approximately, and also the phrase create a firm pile. Feeling more confident in searching for more information, I opened the Tom Boswell book, The Rug Hook Book, where he states, the height of the loops will depend on your style and the thickness of your strips. The word echoes in my mind style and also thickness. Reading more books from antique dealers to other valuable hookers, I'm learning that with older rugs, a higher pile placed in traffic makes for a sheen of wear that is not replaceable with new rugs. Stella Hay Rex, remember we killed this book too, this was a great one, Practical Hooked Rugs, wrote, the pile must be high enough to make the rug firm and substantial underfoot. I'm just glancing forward because I want to add something and I don't want to be repetitive. I just want to add at that point that if you remember last week on Coffee Time, maybe the week before, we were looking at an older source, and it was, I want to say like a 19th century source, and the recommendation there was to hook an inch high. But as we read on, it was suggested that you hook an inch high because they were about to clip it, right? And they anticipated clipping it. And if you also remember from our books that we've looked at from the very early 20th century, we've looked at some books that are like 1920s and just before, right? And it's very routine in those older books for them to say just what she's saying here. You know, they hooked higher, they often clipped, and they would often, from time to time, trim down the pile, right, slowly to make it last longer, almost like a wick on a candle, right? Because it would get filthy dirty, irreversibly filthy. And they would just trim it, and it would look brand new the next year. Colorful, new, nothing bad happening, like it was pristine again. So that was very, very routine back in the day. And isn't it odd, again, I'm just making the point again, with this craft, we're talking about specifically rug hooking, with this craft, that we have gone so extreme in such a short time, right? Since its sort of inception, middle 19th century, people hooking very high for practical purposes. They want a sturdy rug, and they're thinking forward to the fact that they will want to trim it, as years go by, to give it a nice fresh surface and pile, colorful, get rid of the dirt, get rid of the stains and everything that's stuck on the surface of the rug. We've gone so far away from that to having a fixed rule about the height of the loops, right? It's just like everything to do with hooking. It's just like going from sitting by the fireside with a piece of coal sketching your pattern, then using a bent hook to hook your pattern, to having all these rules and $1,200 cutters and $70 hooks, right? It's gone pendulum swings very far every time it swings. So it's important to go back and remember these early ideas about all these rules, because these rules are just word of mouth rules that you hear when people start running their mouth. And everybody has an opinion. I'll let you finish that one yourself. But, everybody's opinion is not good, or it's not right, or it might not be right for you. So this is one of the things that the Wall Street Journal was the best at, is reminding you, you hear the rule. I don't want to say let it go in one ear and out the other, but to some extent, let it go in one ear. Synthesize, use the part that you can use. This is what I do when I go to church too. This is probably awful to say, but sometimes I hear things that I don't quite like, that don't fit in with my personality and my personal set of beliefs. So I let them wash over me. But sometimes something gets stuck and I think, that's fantastic. I can use that. I'm so glad I was here to hear that. It's the same thing with everything in life, isn't it? You listen to it and you say, yeah, maybe. I'm not 100% on board with that, but I'm going to use part of it. And then you use the part that you like and you keep going, right? That's the way that you synthesize everything in life. So she goes on to say, then my eyes look at a rug on the floor that was hooked in the 1950s. Even with no name to give credit, this hooker hooked a very primitive pattern of flowers with what I would call a pile of loops that make a substantial statement. She hooked her primitive from her heart along with her loops. The hookers out there that have been fortunate enough to put their eyes upon rugs that are real antiques will be able to tell you that the pile and hooked rugs vary. The primitive patterns are hooked with a higher pile. The rugs that are not hooked high lead one to think that the hooker had a sparse hooking supplies. So in other words, was worried about running out of material if they hooked too high and wasted all that material in that higher height, right? That's a very good thought. That's a very sort of good way of preemptively or proactively looking at what you've got and how you can make it last longer. Emmylou Lay is one of the finest primitive teachers who's traveled far and wide to spread her vast knowledge of primitive hooking. She'll tell you hooking high is the way to achieve the primitive look. And often you'll hear her say, hooking high is a good thing. Look at her rugs. They speak for themselves or for itself. The point of hooking height, ? We have individual styles and we need to encourage individuality. Primitives are expressions of our hearts and should be set free. It is good to make ourselves aware that the differences and see the height of the loops as designed, then work from the heart. Dorothy Lawless says in her book, Rug Hooking and Braiding, another great book, a wise teacher doesn't force any personal preferences on those who are learning. Instead, tries to carry out original ideas. She was great. We covered that book too. She was great for those kinds of statements, saying things like, if your teacher is telling you that there's one way, that's the wrong teacher. She's a good one for this kind of talk too. That was a great book. A wise teacher doesn't force any personal preferences on those who are learning. She tries to carry out original ideas. Absolutely. Absolutely. A good reminder that we are all hookers in the same breath, all teachers, no matter the preference of our height or your loops. Hook 'em high, lofty loops, and Renita. So I think that was a really useful article. I'm happy I read that. I don't read them until I'm on the air here, but I think it was full of good ideas. One of the things that I notice when I'm teaching is that one of the real beginner things that can be a problem is people hooking too low. I see that much more than people hooking too high. It's much more unusual, in my experience, to see people hooking very high. And I typically won't say anything about it other than some kind of anecdote along the lines of, if you have a kit, like a pre-made kit, there's a chance that you might run out if you're hooking very, very high, because I think most teachers go off, most people working in rug hooking go off of the premise that you need about 3 to 4 times more wool for the space than the actual surface, right? So that's a mathematical problem for the person putting your kit together. I always do 4, and it's still possible for people to run out, and that's fine. It means those people are higher hookers. Who cares? I always will send more when that happens. It's not a thing at all. But hooking low is very low is a tougher problem, because then you run the risk of seeing the backing through the loops. It's not a problem in the grand scale of things. In 100 years, it ain't going to make any difference anyway. But in terms of getting the look that you want as a beginner, hooking low, I think, is more of a problem, right? Because you see more, you see more backing. Hooking too high can be a problem too. If supplies are a thing and you don't want to waste extra money that you don't really have for the same project, it is good to have a rule in place. But at the end of the day, you could hook one piece that has a variety of different types of loops, right? That's what Waldoboro hookers did. They hooked it real high, like a dense pom-pom, and then they trimmed it like a little bonsai tree, didn't they, to sculpt it and shape it. We can still do that. We see that mostly with Canadian hookers now and British hookers, that sort of school of Dion Fitzpatrick, hooking very high, very wild, different heights, different things emerging, like with a kind of 3D effect. Absolutely, right? So it'll always be up to you to decide if you like the height of your hooks. And it's nice to see somebody in print telling you that, right? Too many rules discourage creativity. That is so true. That's the killer. It's the Achilles heel in everything when someone bombards you with rules. And if you are one of those people who is a bit more technical than creative, and you are trying to attach to the technical rules so that you feel you're doing things right, having too many rules is impossible. It's like having a recipe with too many things going on. You can't possibly get things off the stove and into the oven, and it's too much, isn't it? It's good to keep things simple, and for God's sake, right, hooking with a bent nail to now, this is supposed to be an easy, straightforward thrift craft, isn't it? Lisa, good to see you. Crystal says, trimming the pile without having to glue the back. This is fascinating. Yeah, well, I mean, yes, definitely without having to glue the back. But hooking different piles, the key thing that she keeps saying in here is making sure the rug is sturdy, making sure that whatever your loops are, that they support each other. So you want the right kind of denseness, right, sponginess, so that you're not packed, officially packed, which means too dense, right? You're too dense and it's starting to buckle and lump up. But you don't want it to be so bare that you're seeing the backing in between and have all of these what we call holidays. So holidays are easier to fix. You can always jump back in later and pull through. Even with holidays, your loops are probably going to stay. They're through the backing, and the backing opens up when that hook comes through and you bring something bigger through it, and then it wants to close back up and lock into place. So rarely do you get falling out as long as your backing in antique rugs is stable and hasn't been compromised, like rotting or eaten by mice or something like that. Rarely do you just don't see loops just falling out, right? So that should always work, but it is, I think, more important to think about how the overall back is looking as you hook, rather than am I hooking high or hooking low? Is it looking pretty consistent? That's the thing, because if you're hooking high and you're pretty sparse, it's going to give you a certain look. If you're hooking low and it's very dense, it's going to give you a certain look. I would be looking more at, do I like the look that's emerging from my loops? And do I really want to put a lot of thought into whether I'm a high hooker or a low hooker? Because, I'm going to say it again, when you work against your instincts, it's uphill. It's always uphill. If you are by nature a low hooker, then you're a low hooker. Try to hook a little bit higher, but if it just doesn't happen because you don't want to be alert all the time and thinking on every loop, right, like a knitter does, counting and calculating all the time, if you don't want to have that hanging over you, then just make sure that, your pile is pretty even and supports itself, right? That the loops are supporting them, each other, and giving that good, stable, spongy, springy background, right? But yeah, conversations about loops can be super annoying and pointless because number one, who cares? And number two, yours are different than mine. So too many rules. I agree. Lisa, oh, you made it. Anita, good to see you. It is a beautiful day. And Lori says the rule goes out when I'm using multiple cuts. Yep. You're personally a low hooker. Yep. I hook to the, yeah, you hook to the height that makes you smile. Absolutely. Nothing else to do, right? That's the way to do it. Matthew, good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, I missed a little bit further up. See, I was running my mouth and I missed some good conversation. Nada says, a group I met in the early days of hooking looked at my rug and said, wow, you're a high hooker. Exactly right. Let me, oh, wait a minute. Oh no, don't do this. Don't do this. Wow, you're a high hooker. You must be rich because it takes so much more wool. It was not said admirably. That what a sarcastic, crappy thing to say, huh? What is wrong with people? Honestly, what is wrong with people? I'm sorry about that. The only reason I'm reminding people who are accidentally hooking high about it, particularly people who do latch and things that by definition will involve a higher pile, clipped rugs, right, will involve a higher pile. If you clip your rugs and you've got a very low pile, now there could be an issue with loops falling out, right, because they're clipped. So, you don't have that ribbon candy thing going on. You've just got like a chia pet, right, a crew-cutted chia pet going on. So that can be a thing. But, for each person, I think the main takeaway is you should do it the way that you naturally do it. And if you like the way that it's coming out, these things are not conversations. Stand up for yourself, stand up for other people. If you hear somebody saying something crazy to them, like your loops are the wrong height, make sure that you speak up in those moments because it is a group project to push back against all of these crazy, antiquated, dated, outmoded rules. We all have to push back so that people who are new, who are coming into the craft, don't feel under the weight of all the pressure of these many big, heavy, stupid rules, right? We'd all be pushing back. Then she moves to the next feature is musings, reflections, deliberations, meditations, and thoughts. And this is the page where she puts all these beautiful quotes in to sort of lift your spirits and improve your day. In all the gardens and all up the vale, from autumn bonfires, see the smoke trail. Pleasant summer over, and all the summer flowers, the red fire blazes, the gray smoke towers. Robert Louis Stevenson. So beautiful, isn't it? So beautiful. So a whole page of these adorable quotes, no particular theme, seasonal, because it comes out 4 times a year. So nice to go through and see these kinds of things. Let's see what else we got here. Pillow talk. Now this is, remember she always has a few pages that are in color and she'll give you something important like this feature on pillow talk. Remember in the first issue she gave us that bolster pillow and great instructions about closing it with a buttonhole stitch. This time it's pillow talk and she's showing you how to make this adorable pillow using I happen to have one right here, cookie cutter, right? I'm doing a class in this coming up in Plymouth. Not this coming weekend, the following weekend, designing with cookie cutters, and I'm bringing a ton of my cookie cutters with me. But that's all she's doing here. Talk about do your own designing, right? Why not? She's got a cookie cutter out. It's a gingerbread man. She's doing the tracings. She's got it going. She's filled it in. Crazy, whatever you have left over. And then she's putting the pillow together, and she'll tell you just how she puts the pillow together. So another just adorable feature. Then she's got this great small feature, just this little bit here. Now this is why this magazine is a gold mine. This little bit here talks about salt shaker dyeing, right? We did this in one of the classes that I had, one of the first ones, where I sent everybody one of those tiny, they're called, I think, pepperettes. You can get them off Amazon. I'm sorry if you hate Amazon because I talk about it a lot just because I need it a lot. But they'll send you a big box of these little pepperettes. You can use them as salt and peppers for individual dining. Little glass things with a little, silver top. And I put one in with a color that I had made, the powder, as one of our dyeing projects. We sprinkled, right? We sprinkled with it. And I was just making the point. That's another nice way to get color, particularly when you want your color to strike, right? You don't want the color to be immersed in water and be diluted like a watercolor. So we were taking our material that was pre-colored, using a salt shaker, and just sprinkling on top with our little pepperettes. What a great thing to order some pepperettes if you like dyeing. Fill them with food coloring, powdered food coloring, powdered natural dye if you don't like to use the chemical dyes, and just keep them handy, right? So that you can do sprinkles. Because when you do sprinkles, only with chemical dyes, right? Not with natural dyes, but with chemical dyes, you'll never know the way, when the colors land on your wet fabric, you'll never know the way it's going to break or pop, or what colors are going to appear, because you've got brown and you're very surprised to see cobalt blue or turquoise blue popping as the first color that strikes. That's what's so great about salt shaker dyeing. So she does a little article about that. I mean, this information she's giving you in this article, just this little bit about using the salt shaker, number one, what a great idea, because not everybody's tried it. Number two, what a world this much text opens up. Like, I should have had a V8. What a world. You got your salt shakers all lined up, right, your little pepperettes, and you start doing this new form of dyeing. Opens up a whole new world of spot dyeing. You're not spooning liquid out of a mason jar. You're not squirting out of hairdresser bottles. You're using little salt shakers. You know, not even a whole page, but so much in there to lock onto and to take away and be inspired by, right? So then she's got her projects that she showed us earlier, that the patterns are in applique. This one's hooked, but I think this one's applique. She's got these on the earlier pages. And then this adorable All God's Creatures, Great and Small, the camels, tall, bearing gifts, and gifts, the donkey carrying the greatest gift of all, the lambs. Oh, I see. The shepherds watching over them. So she's got the whole sort of Christmas story in a 9-panel narrative leading up to the Magi appearing with their gifts. Just a cute little design that appears later too, like a 9-panel storytelling sequence. How great is that? What a great idea. If you don't like religious subjects, what a great idea anyway, doing a 9-panel, you know, could be Andy Warhol with the Kansas soup, but it's a story. It's an ongoing story. Reminds me of being at Catholic school and doing the Stations of the Cross with the nuns. Whew, that took hours and hours. But all these nice little features, you know, as you go along. The Wool Street Anywhere USA in this issue looks at Pico, Minnesota, Sue Conway. So if anybody knows her, let us know. But it's giving this little shop here by Sue Conway that is in the spotlight for this issue here, because in every issue they're bringing up a store that's anywhere USA, somewhere in the US, and you know, what they have and what they do. And unfortunately, so far we have found these stores to be defunct and gone, but sometimes the people are somewhere else working on an Etsy store, still working and hooking, which is nice. Let's do one more little feature to close this episode, this issue, both of them. This is so cute, this magazine. I like this article that they put in here. It's Sally and Allie at Kindred Spirits, right? And they collaborated on writing this article called The Creative Season. And I think this is I just skimmed it before the show. It was super cute. The Creative Season. It's here again. This is the favorite time of year for many rug hookers. It certainly is for us. In the fall, our desire to hook is heightened in direct proportion to the lowering of the temperature. As the sap in the trees begins to slow, our creative juices begin to flow. There is nothing that gets us in the mood to hook more than the donning of a big wool sweater. We have come to realize that wearing wool begets thoughts of working with wool. Fall brings with it 3 months that inspire the highest level of creative excitement, and, as Christmas approaches, for those of you who celebrate Christmas, the greatest season of creative needs. It seems that since we were school children, the coming of fall signaled a time to regroup, reorganize, and pick up where we left off. It is a time of crispness and color, and I think most everyone feels energized with a renewed interest in home and hearth and the need to accomplish something. For us, October, November, December seem to turn into an ongoing run-together creative season. We are excited about decorating our homes and making gifts for other kindred spirits. At this time of year, we set aside our larger creative projects and focus on rug hooking efforts, on something attainable but still very impressive. Smaller hooked projects for the home and gift giving. Each season brings with it unique colors, that's so true, isn't it? And shapes and sensations. October and November present thoughts of acorns, harvest, pumpkins, bittersweet, yellow, gold, brown, red, orange, and all of the wonderful images of Thanksgiving and Halloween. December brings the darkening of days as well as the colors of the season. Pine and holly green, red berries, misty lights, and all the wonderful images of Christmas. And I will say all of the Christmas holidays. You can make a small hooked piece. You can make small hooked pieces that are traditionally representative of one holiday, but manipulate them for use with other seasons. For example, hook a Halloween or Thanksgiving Christmas stocking. Hook the traditional shape of the stocking with different colors and a different scheme. We usually think of ornaments as hanging on the Christmas tree, but fall ornaments are charming hanging on a twig or primitive pine tree. It would be easy to begin your fall ornaments with a simple star shape. Hook the Halloween stars with spiders in the center and orange and gold background. Hook harvest stars with hit or miss. Look at using those warm fall colors. Hook patriotic red, white, and blue stars for any season. So she goes on to talk about lots of ideas for small projects like these. She's got a little table runner here too with lamb's tongues that are probably felt, like felt applique, possibly hooked in the center or felt applique, and then some little projects that she's giving directions for. But she's saying, you know, the crossover, traditionally we associate stocking with Santa and the Christmas holiday, but she's saying Halloween one is very nice. Stars that we would maybe associate with 4th of July, you know, also Christmas tree, putting on the Christmas tree in the night sky, little cobwebs in the center, crossing them over so that you can use them for more than one holiday. I think that's a smart idea, because keeping things up for 1 month is a bit sad and rushed, isn't it? Doing little mini pillows and things like that. Lots of good ideas. Beverly says, Chrissy says, I still use my salt shake. You still use your die shaker from that class. That's great. I forget what color we had in it. I feel like it was a Christmassy color. I'm thinking of the book cassette I was listening to when I was putting it together. At least that was a holiday book. So maybe. I think it was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, actually. Weird how those things stick, isn't it? Beverly says, I bought shakers from the dollar store. Absolutely, that's a great idea. Whatever your dollar store is, they do have shakers, and you use them for glitter and other crafts. That is so smart. And you know, over the summer, Joss and I bought a bunch of shakers, older ones, breakable ones, that were singles at flea markets, because people had boxes of them, guys who just clean out houses, had boxes of shakers, and we took like all of them because we figured we would put them up on a display. I don't know if you remember the Gilmore Girls, but Lorelai and Rory in their kitchen always had, like, in the background at the kitchen table, a shelf with all of these shakers on it. And I thought, we haven't done it yet, but let's get all our shakers up there, but with dye in them. You have to tell people that, don't you? Because if they're sprinkling their pasta and then getting, you know, cancer, that would not be festive, to say the least. But I think it's a great idea, collecting salt shakers. And you know, you can always get the ones that have lost the pair super cheap at yard sales and flea markets in the summertime when that rolls around again. So I'll probably stop there. It's worth saying, just to let you know what's in the rest of this issue, should you be looking at this to buy or something, if you've been lucky enough to have that opportunity. Phyllis Lindblade does a nice hooking history at the end of this. So this is only our third episode, our third issue of Rug Hooking Journal that we've looked at. But this is the first one that includes a very comprehensive history. So she's specifically talking about the 20th century. That's where the starting point is, and it's a nice thorough sort of nutshell history. I know that's like an oxymoron, but it is talking about how the craft became. Just talking about the 20th century, how it became popular right after the Great Depression, right? And how anything sort of thrifty where you would make do, all of those things became in vogue because of necessity, right? Because nobody had a lot of anything. Well, a few people did, just like now. But so she talks about the years after the Great Depression and how, you know, until there was another economic boom, rug hooking was very popular, and until that point that they referenced in the first issue of Wall Street Journal, where was it the Wall Street Journal? I think it was, where she said, I forget who it was who wrote that article, but she said the highest compliment that somebody could give you at a certain point in the 20th century after the Great Depression was, ooh, that thing that you're making looks store-bought, right? And that makes me feel like, oh no, you don't want it to look store-bought, but pendulum swung, right? And then it swung back, and it just keeps swinging back and forth. We keep jumping on and off as a culture. But it's interesting how she goes through the sort of main points of the 20th century and how the popularity of rug hooking is immediately impacted by what's going on economically and culturally, right? So yeah, so this is a nice article. She talks about post-World War II. She talks about Pearl McGowan coming onto the scene and doing her epic and important work, both documenting existing patterns, but also teaching and creating a culture of rug hooking that we really credit her for, as we should. And then lots of great articles and more pictures of things that you could make, because remember, this comes out 4 times a year. So this issue covered Halloween, Thanksgiving, right through the winter holidays to the new year. Absolutely adorable, and showing us things like this on the last page. It's colored again, and she gives credit to all the people who were involved in it. Every rug hooker's story is a love story, a love affair with textiles and color. Most rug hookers we know used to be quilters, knitters, cross-stitchers, etc. You get the picture. We love the feel of thread and fabric, whether line or cotton or wool, linen. I think that was supposed to be linen. Who among us can resist touching a scratchy tweed, a soft plaid, a knobby boucle, or a satiny spot dye? We love using these marvelous fabrics in many ways, but especially with a hook and a frame. So she's talking about, this is Lisa Yago and Cindy Rupp of the Potted Pear, do a nice little bit on rug hooking on the last page. Another sort of romantic little end bit. Tribute to Margaret Howell, Mom, Wife, Grandmother, Gardener, Hooker, by Margot Siner. Margaret Howell, 1908 to 2002. Oh, let me read this and then we'll end. She says, let me show you. This is on the back cover, right? The actual back cover. This is work by Margaret Howell. I wonder if any of you know that name. Lisa, this is volume 1, number 3. Still. So Margaret Howell, a tribute to, on her good days, my mom hooked on her rug for about an hour or 2 each day. At the age of 93, she'd been confined to her bed for 3 years, but her heart remained warm and generous and her fingers busy. She hooked rugs for each of her 18 grandchildren, adding up to 27, some receiving more than one. Her first rug was hooked in 1950. It was a busy time in her life, raising 5 children and sharing interests with her husband, staying very active in her community, especially loving her garden club. Family came first, and she rolled this first rug up and stored it in the closet. This is Margaret's first rug in 1950. Beautiful, huh? It was pretty sort of spice brown colors, right? The cushion colors, spice brown, wood rose. I discovered the hidden rug in the late 1970s. I'd become a hooker, and we began to finish that large floral rug together. Soon after completion, we both put away our hooks as life events crowded in once again. In the late 1990s, Mom and I picked up our hooks again. Mom was alone and had moved from her big home and garden, and we worked both together and separately on many projects. I spent many hours at her bedside, hooking with Mom. During that time, I hooked a favorite piece, my mom in her garden. She was an artist in her garden, and this is a tribute to her. Mom and I hooked until the last, and I will finish and display her latest rug, Brementown Musicians, completing our collaboration. Oh, man. Oh, so this is Mom in her garden here. What a beautiful tribute. So this came out in 2002, and Margaret Howell had just passed away. What a beautiful tribute. Isn't that nice? That choked me up. You know, that reminds me something important I forgot to tell you. Alice Butler. You know, we love Alice Butler and the story of Alice Butler working with her son Vic. And Rob, the nephew, wrote me this morning, because we've been writing back and forth about a few things, because I'm doing that talk for the, is it called Whimsical Woolens, the new White Mountain, New Hampshire chapter of ATHA, the first week of December. I'm doing that talk for that group on Alice Butler. So I was going back and forth with Rob and making sure that I had permission to use that last image that I showed you on a past coffee time that he just found, right? A rug that he just found. It was like almost like a planetary, very modern looking rug. modern in the 60s, 70s. But he wrote this morning and he said, I don't know if I have told you, but I also found while he was busy looking for rugs that we can, cover the subject some more, he said, I also found a bunch of needle points. Now, I know this isn't our area that we talk about on this show, but I'm thinking, and he said, are you interested in hearing more? Am I interested in hearing more about that? I'm flying out to California to see more. Yes, I'm interested. So, and I think we're all interested, but I'm very curious to see her needlepoint designs. And I asked him when I wrote back, it was just like right before coffee time. I asked when I wrote back, Rob, do you think that Alice worked on these needlepoint designs during the times, remember there was times when Vic first went to school as a young man, and then he ended up living not hideously far away, but far enough that they weren't constantly together working on rugs. Do you think that Alice might have worked on needlepoint designs and completing needlepoints during those times when she was at kind of a standstill and kind of stuck when Vic wasn't there? So he's still talking to Vic quite a bit, and I'm hoping that he can answer that question for me. And I'm looking forward to seeing those needlepoint designs, because as soon as things slow down, I am going to be introducing the Alice designs, the Vic and Alice Butler designs, into the Ribbon Candy Hooking Store. We're going to be talking about them, hooking them together, looking at them a lot. And if those needlepoint designs also, and I'm sure they do, lend themselves to hooking, then we have a whole other parallel, separate collection of designs, original designs from the same family that we can incorporate into our hooking design. So I got very excited when I got that email this morning. And of course, as he answers and as I find out more and see these designs, of course I will share them with you. And we'll put Alice and Vic where they were always meant to be, which is right at the center of rug hooking, right? In terms of design, technique, color, beauty, success of their designs are all original. We need to put them right at the center again. So we have a lot to talk about and look at there. Evolving stories straight from the family. So have a great afternoon, everybody. Tomorrow is Thursday, but I will be on with you for coffee time. We'll look at the next issue of Wall Street Journal. And I realized I run so late every day lately. I don't know what's wrong with me. My mouth just keeps running. I will be with you tomorrow. So Thursday there will be a coffee time episode. And I realized on Friday, Mom, we are celebrating your birthday a little early this time. Her birthday's on November 15th, but my sister and I are going to go up to my mom's place on Friday, start the party on the couch, if you know what I mean. So I won't run a coffee time on Friday because I'm looking forward to partying on the couch with my mom and my sister. So I might run an episode during the day on Friday, and I'll let you know tomorrow, but I'm certainly running an episode tomorrow, Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Because I'm anticipating skipping cocktail time this week for a party. So that's the way it's going to shake out in the foreseeable future. But I will be back with you tomorrow, and I will see you then at noon Eastern Standard Time. Take care in the meantime.